Well, I'm giving you gigantic hugs and high fives. And I don't know if you remember, we had you in the studio. We had this really nice thing. It was about 5 years ago. You played some guitar. You played Statesboro acoustic for me. It was like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it was really nice. Now, are you on what sort of, are you, it sounds like you're far from the phone. Are you on a speaker or something? What are we,
No, I'm not. Is this any better?
That's wonderful. Listen to that. Thank you.
Okay,
I appreciate it.
great.
You know how
Yeah.
it is with the radio because we got to get the.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's the same thing. Everybody's in cell phone hell these days.
Yep, and it's just hard when people are in their cars. You got to cut through
Yeah,
the noise of the road.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
man, huge welcome back and big hug, big high fives, and I really appreciate you taking time for this.
No worries, man. It's like it's it's a place I love. What's going on over there. We get Bobby Ungano on the road with us all the time now, so it's like really a nice thing. It's like with the quartet. But I wanted to come and do a solo thing. I haven't done much of that for a while, and you know, just let people know how much where it starts. Here's where it starts. Me and a guitar, me and a guitar, me and a banjo, me and this, me and that, and then, it's like, it's a culture, that really, acknowledges the individual players. You get out here and you very rarely see on when you come to the continent, solo players that really are. It's like everybody surrounds themselves with a lot of musicians. Not a bad thing. I do too, but I think that the heart of the music is the individual with their instrument and voice, or just even with their voice, So I always keep that challenge going all the time. Keep that happening.
Well, you do
And
that. It's nice how you what you touched on is a lot of the different shows you've done, even in the islands. The last several times you've been have been just that, a different kind of band or a different set of musicians around you, or
mhm,
more stripped down, like what you're talking about for these shows. So I'm
yeah.
guessing just you and a guitar. It's also billed, Taj, as featuring special guest Willie K.
Yeah, but I think Willie, from what I understand,
Not gonna
that
do it.
he might not be able to do it, and that we might get Mike Calva to come
Okay.
in, and which would be fine by me. I don't, I mean, not fine by Willie, but that if for somebody, because my whole thing is that we are promoting the individual music style and local music. There's always in my situation welcome. These are the type of people I like having in my sphere of influence.
Right. And you probably go back. I mean, your connections, of course, to the islands. For people who don't know, Taj has had a very, very long, deep connection to the islands. But when you think of somebody like Willie, is that a guy you remember from just decades and decades ago?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Hearing about him, knowing about him, and finally getting to meet him, and then playing on a couple of his different blues festivals that he
Right.
had,
Right.
and then him coming out and playing on the blues cruises, so it was really great, being responsible to get him out there, and or helping being part of the people that helped get his name in front of the people that make the decisions for him to come out on the blues cruise. So, and then, so many people got to hear him, and it was like, with the to me with the the influence that the steel guitars had on music in general, and in specific, the blues. He's got to make room for that type of people that created that kind of innovation. Who've also absorbed the blues and the jazz and country and pop and what they've done and created a music with an incredible personal stamp on it.
That's a great
You-
That's a great way of looking at him. I hadn't even, I mean, it's very similar to you and your approach, but using
yeah,
Hawaiian kinds of things and you using more
yeah,
African Caribbean is kind of like the,
yeah, yeah, yeah. But but I mean, the steel guitar's going all the way to Africa.
right.
I mean, King Sonny Ade's band, has got several different players, and then there's guys up in the desert. There's a guy. I'm not fucking thinking what this guy's name is. He's from up in like the northern Malian desert,
Oh, Ali
and he's
Farka
playing.
Ali Farka.
No. Yeah. Well, the Ali Farka tour, but I'm talking about somebody playing steel.
Okay.
You
Right.
know, there's a guy playing steel. I can't think of what his name is. Faris, Faris, Faris. Yeah, he's like serious. You know, he's like, hooked him and Ben Harper up when Ben was over in France. And Faris is from North Africa and lives in Paris some of the time, or in southern France. And the two of them got hooked up. And what he's done, he's coming from way deeper. He's coming from the Bedouin side of the blues,
Right.
way the heck out there in the desert, playing, and he's coming with these older melodies that basically got translated to the transatlantic, slave trade, bringing the Africans over to the Western world, and then these melodies, some of them have ended up in some of the songs on this side, but he's going back to the original stuff way back. And, there are different places. I mean, you go in the other direction. Roger Waters playing with Pink Floyd, I mean, he's playing it. And then you go down to, Pete Drake, playing in the country music. And it's here, it's there, it's all over the place, So, and then it's all Joseph K. Cuckoo, who's the one that started that out, playing the steel, in Hawaii. And that sound is going all around the world. It's whether people know it or not. Is Hawaiian music is a global resource.
No, and it's so cool how you connect the dots like that. I mean, and as you did, it kind of made me think of something because I was looking at some notes about you and planned on bringing it up later. But when you mention all of that deep roots to Africa, in one of your many different eras of being a pioneer, I look at, and you tell me how it was to be there, but in 1979, your first African tour sponsored by
Oh
President
yeah.
Jimmy Carter's administration, which when you were talking, it made that come to mind. Tell the story of how that came together and maybe some highlights for you personally.
Yeah, well, that was really, really wonderful. The wonderful thing about it was that Jimmy Carter had although he had the 1 year in, his influence is still being felt. He was a very positive man globally, and he had excellent diplomatic connections and international relations with other countries. And to that end, he sent out quite a few people. We weren't the only ones that went out, but so when I started hearing from like Junior Wells and Buddy Guy and other artists who were being sent on these trips, and this has been happening since they sent Louis Armstrong years ago as
Wow.
an ambassador. So yeah, Louis went to Ghana and toured around Africa. In fact, that's how Hugh Masekela got his first trumpet, which was from Louis Armstrong.
Doing one of those
And
tours like you're talking
yeah,
about.
doing one of those tours like that. And so back in those days, he would always send goodwill and musical ambassadors to various countries to do things. This was a big part of what I knew when I was growing up. So I look forward to that being something like that. And then it went out of my mind. And then of course we got asked, with the Carter administration. And we were more than happy to go. So we took a band that consisted of Kester Smith, who came from Grenada and raised in Trinidad on drums. And then Bill Rich family came from Arkansas up to Omaha, Nebraska. He was American. And then Rudy Costas, traveling from Cape Verdean and from the south of the United States. And he was our saxophone player. Bill was our bassist. And then we had Robert Greenwich, who was originally people from Grenada and raised in Trinidad. He was our steel drum player. And we had Juma Santos, who was our percussionist. And
Wow.
then I played piano, guitar, harmonica, banjo, et cetera, and was the vocalist for the group. And then we had two other gentlemen that was with us. My brother Seabreeze, who ran all of our sound, and then we had Dr. J, who was the road manager and tour manager at the time. So, and then what was his name? John Powell, who was connected with the U.S. government, and we went. Here's a city. Here's a country we went. We went Niger, Burkina Faso, Kenya, Zaire, Congo, Gabon, Burundi, Rwanda, Cameroon. Yeah, Cameroon. I said Gabon. Yeah, Cameroon and Liberia, and then Gambia and Senegal.
Amazing.
And it was fantastic. It was just
I
fantastic
mean,
because you know, and it was, but certain interesting things. It's so interesting how what we do in the United States at that time translated to what was going on in Africa. Not all the time, but sometimes people were hollering for us to play disco.
right.
You know, and because that's what they had heard, through the international passage of music at the time. I mean, nowadays it's a lot better because you got your online, you know, sites and
Distribution of
whatnot.
music, right? Music can get
Yeah,
around quicker.
it's like it's glow. You get around quicker. I mean, just as fast as it comes out over here, they can hear it over there now, and they didn't have to set up the whole, wire to wire terrestrial, land connection. They just getting it right off the satellite and in the handheld device. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. But we played. We did workshops. We did jam sessions. We did concerts first of all, and we met with various people, heads of state over there, and we went to schools. And that's this place. Any place that they spoke English, they wanted to hear us come and speak English to them, and they asked us questions about our music, about our lives and whatnot. So it was a lot of fun. And we saw, we certainly saw like other things saw along the way, the great animals of the continent, but it was the people and their warmth and just amazing the openness and you know, you know, just just incredible,
Oh,
incredible humanity.
I can imagine, and like when you name those countries, I'm thinking you name Cameroon, and I mean some of these places where I think of Manu Dibango first of all, or I think of
Yeah,
Fela
yeah, yeah,
Kuti, Thomas Mapfumo.
yeah,
Were they at any of these
yeah.
shows? Who were the artists that came out for this?
The art mostly with us. It was local artists. We really didn't. We didn't really run into any of the international artists because
Okay.
interesting enough, so many of them were playing in Europe. They
R-
weren't on the
Right. No,
continent
you're
that much,
absolutely right. Manu Dibango
you
was
know.
making it in France. You're absolutely a lot of them.
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, we did run into him. I've run into him a number of times, but that's always, it's never been on the continent,
Right. It's been in Europe.
right, ran Europe. And like we never ran into Franco, you know, Papa Wimba or, Prince Nico and Barga, or, or even Usman Sembene or Omu Sangare, none of we know. Now, the one person that we did run into that on the continent was Al Haji Baikonte in the Gambia, but I had met him in the United States, and he had made a kora for me, and so we went to
Wow.
his village, and we'd gotten some of this great tobacco down in the Cameroons, and he smoked cigars, and he just loved these great raw tobacco cigars he brought up to him. And he invited us into his compound and met his family, and I knew his son, who I eventually gave him one of my guitars because he was the younger one playing the kora and wanted to transfer those melodies to the guitar, which he eventually did. And, we met other groups. Like there was a great group in the Gambia called Ifang Bundi, Ifang Bundi, and they played with us. They were kind of like an accompanying opening act with us when we were in the Gambia. And after they got through playing, we all got through And maybe the day we were getting ready to go, they questioned us and asked, "Well, do you think we could the music that we're playing would, be something that people in Europe would like?" And I said, "Sure, are you kidding me?" And the next thing I know, these guys are like really popular for probably like about 20 years. And then, a different thing, they lost a couple of members of the band and
Right.
then it went back down, but yeah, they got out. And in fact, the last time I was at the North Sea, one of the guys that was in the band was still living in Europe, got a hold of me through one of the guys backstage, and we reminisced for a while over the phone. But he was really thrilled because he said if it hadn't been for us, man, yeah, you could do it. They would have never come out of the Gambia. But now this is happening all the time. There's more of the music that comes out, to to the world now. You have World Circuit, Rough Trade, and all these different record companies, that really specialize in, and plus they're online now.
Right.
You can listen to anything you want. I was in a place the other day, and actually several songs from the album that Tumani Giabate and Ali Farka Toure did together. Really nice, beautiful album they did together with the two of them. Ali playing guitar and Tumani playing kora. But yeah, all kinds of things, went on. I mean, we got to hear another band that came out. It's called Konono Number One, and they were the pygmies of the Ituri forest down in the Congo,
Oh.
and they were playing. We jammed a big jam session with them, and they just were basic. But they had these big thumb pianos that they had amplified by taking the mouthpiece part of those old telephones and taping them to the bottom of
The thumb piano?
the thumb piano.
That's a
And then
kalimba?
in,
Is that what that's called?
yeah,
Kalimba?
kalimba, or humbira, likimbu. There's a bunch of different names. But anyway, they had this whole band, this whole orchestra that was hooked up to this one amplifier, and it was like, this is amazing sound. And then we saw them later. I mean, because there's places where they don't have access to now. That's better, but they don't usually have access to, really good guitars or really good instruments. I mean, they were literally taking the cymbals were made out of old smashed car hubcaps,
Wow.
and I mean they didn't sound like no Zildjian, but boy, they were in the pocket in terms of the music and the tone, and the
Right.
drums are made out, this thing and that thing, and
Organic.
it's just thank you very much, exactly. But the music was happening, and they really enjoyed us. They were a little shy at first, and we said, no, come on, let's go, let's get in it. And once they got in, and the music was fantastic. We taught, like I say, we did workshops with, we'd take a situation where we would, I would take all the guitars, and then Robert would take pianos, steel drums would take pianos, bass, drums, congas, hand drums, saxophones, flutes. Would go with Rudy, and we just would work with all these people and come back and do something together on stage, and just phenomenal. So another thing was interesting is that whenever we had concerts, if there were big trees around the concert, people hung out in trees. I never saw anything like it. You never serious, man. It was, how you see those pictures of like leopards, like, laying in a tree,
Right.
pictures of it, right? People were like that. He was literally laying along the branches and watching the concert from up in a tree, or standing, with their one arm hugged around the center, a tree coming up, your trunk coming up, and another foot in the crotch of the branch, hanging out there. I mean, it was amazing. Sitting on the limbs, it was just
Well,
unbelievable.
well,
You know.
it was a real connection to the people and the way that you're
Oh
just
yeah. Then, you know, many times my brother and I, we were people would walk up to us and either speak to us in Wolof or some cases Lingala when we were down in the Congo, and then when we were up in around Senegal. Well, oftentimes they just spoke to us in French. Fortunately, both of us do speak French, so we could communicate. But then they wouldn't believe that we were from the United States. So you can, you know, c'est not possible. It's not possible.
right.
It's not possible. Was it American? No. You're not. She said, "You American? No. But I said, okay, now I would tell them, I said, in French, I said, well, but I can't speak Bambara, I can't speak Mande, I don't speak Pula, I don't speak Pula. And they go, oh, okay. Oh, well, I guess you are. You must be. But well, then they want to know why do you speak French, you know? And, you know, I mean, we tell them why and whatnot. But, you know, but that was, I mean, that's probably the weirdest state of anything. Everything was funny. All the food was good. The people were wonderful. We all to this day still talk about that experience. That was one, and then the second time we went was in I think 2002. We went to Zanzibar, to
Wow.
East Africa, and that was just a basic trio: Bill Rich, Smitty, and myself. Bill Smitty playing drums, Bill playing bass, and me playing guitar. And then we went to and banjo. And then we went to Zanzibar and played with the culture culture music orchestra of Zanzibar, and that was phenomenal. You know, like six violins, upright bass, doom bags, which are the hand drums, maracas, let's see, two accordions, a flute. Let me see what else, and then the dancers. It was an amazing orchestra because the East Africa side has been influenced heavily by the Arabs. So these bands are more like Arab classical orchestras, but still it was more their it's what they call Ta Arab music and Basharaf. They're very
I
interesting,
know what you're
and
talking
they
about.
love it.
It's kind of like how in North Africa they have the rye, and which
Yeah,
is
exactly.
so it's like it's flavored in different. I mean, you know what
Yeah.
you said something else, different continent, but what you were saying completely resonated with this other part of your experience when you were talking about the way that they would build the instruments, making. You were funny. You said it wasn't any Zildjian, but it went in the pocket. You were talking about the cymbal, and when you talk about that like being resourceful, I guess it was. There's this other side
Hmm.
of you connecting with the roots, and again, it connects to Africa, but it does through Jamaica. When I was looking at your Mo Roots record from '74, which has Aston Family Man Barrett on it, legendary bassist and arranger for Marley's band, and I think about
Yeah.
their origins and the way, as you probably can imagine, they had to be just as resourceful. They had so little, and yet they made so much out of it. Can you talk about making that first connection, which obviously was a very important one for your journey?
If you talk about the Caribbean connection comes directly into my family. My mother's side of the family are migrants from South Carolina to the Northeast, and particularly into Brooklyn, New York, and Brooklyn, New York, near Manhattan and Brooklyn, New York. My father's side of the family comes out of the Caribbean, directly out of the West Indies, from the islands of Saint Kitts and Nevis,
Right.
and they came into about 1902. They came through Ellis Island, and then my grandmother and grandfather met in New York, and realized they were from the same island,
Right.
and then they got married in 1902. And so there was always a Caribbean component. And when people move out of the West Indies, when you're in the West Indies, it's very, the islands are competitive from one place to another because they play cricket competitive. They play football, which we
Ah,
call soccer,
I get
and
it.
so they're competitive. And financially, there's different things that go on. There's different kinds of things that they did. They've been competitive with one another. Once they get into the United States, it's a different thing. So they have a tendency to come to the United States and create what they call West Indian or Caribbean benevolent societies, where all of the islands are involved because they're all there, and they're not any one special bunch of them, you know. So we got to meet lots of Jamaicans and Trinidadians and St. Lucians and people from the Bahamas and I mean, you Cayman Islands, you name them, you name the places, Dominica, you know, they, and then, also too, because it's on that east and they've got all these people coming into New York and the Northeast, you have people from Santo Domingo and from Cuba and, from Puerto Rico and many other parts. So there's lots of people. So for me personally, the Jamaican music, due to a tragedy, when I was about 12 and a half, we lost our dad, and my mother remarried to a Jamaican man. By this point, we still are influenced. Belafonte, older Caribbean type music
Right.
was in the house and in and around. It was also part of popular music at the time. But I, of course, going along, still 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, I'm wondering where is it? What's happening with the young people coming out of Jamaica? There's got to be somebody down there who's picking up on something. And of course, when Marley came along, that's what was exciting to me. Is that by then, I had heard people like Bob Dylan and many of the other single poets and writers, singer songwriters that were coming along and making Gil Scott Heron, you know, even not even just Jimi Hendrix, and I kept thinking that somebody's got to come out of the Caribbean or off of Africa or South America, even Central America. That's going to be driving with ideas and poetry and music and philosophy. There have been many writers out of the Caribbean, but not any musicians, other than like the Mighty Sparrow. And if you live there, there's a lot of local people who people knew there, but outside playing in front of the world. And as soon as I started hearing Marley stuff, I was like, this guy is really amazing. I mean, it really, I was, my first impression was I came home off the road and the postman, he said, well, I used to always let him know when I was coming home so he didn't leave my mail hanging around. And so he delivered the day that I came home. And I saw this big envelope outside of the door. And got to put the mail in and brought my gear into the house and opened up the windows and the doors. And I said, what is this? Rondon music from London. And I opened it up, and it was that Catch a Fire album. That the first one. That somebody knew that I was somebody here in the States that would be, I know it was Denny Cordell's office. And a friend, the lady that I knew when I was in London and came over and had visited, said that, would send me periodically different things that they thought that I would like.
Right.
And I opened that thing up, and I knew I could remember putting it on my stereo and listen to it. My first thing was that, oh, dude, they will never play that on AM radio. It's too much bass. I mean, it's like the bass was like beautiful. I mean, the way it was set up, I just said, nah, they that would scare them to death. And they never really played him on AM radio. They do now because, but what we have to realize is that if you heard the same music that we listen to on the continent here and in Hawaii, if you went to Jamaica to hear it the way it sounds there, you'd be blown away.
Mhm.
First of all, it's bigger, louder, and heavier. I mean, the sound systems that those guys built to go up in the hills to play music are when you're dancing, the ground is shaking under you.
Right.
I'm serious,
No,
man.
I know what you mean. I've been in the grill
Man,
on the beach and seen
oh, well,
exactly what you.
that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was looking in my head. You get in there to the room. Yeah, man. Oh, that's serious. Seriousness. Oh, my breath. You listen to this here.
Exactly.
It's
Right.
like, oh man, this thing out, man. It's like you go like, ooh, we don't even know what it is, and you have to realize that when they take those tapes or files, they tweak them for the continent, and they don't let all that heavy stuff. Go get some ammo. Go get an original copy of Burning Spear by Marcus Garvey. I mean, Marcus Garvey by Burning Spear. You know,
Right. Now I know what you
man.
mean. The mix on that classic roots reggae sounded much
Yeah,
deeper, fatter bass, and what you're talking about
yeah.
also that's even more important. Those sound systems they use in Jamaica, it's a much more intense
Oh
experience.
yeah,
You really can't compare when you're standing because you, like you said, you feel it inside,
yeah,
and it's ironic too. Also, riffing on the African connection that permeates all of this is the fact that "Slave Driver" was the jam that you ended up covering on that record, and you think like,
yeah.
what is
Oh
that?
yeah,
What is that? But a route to Africa, correct? I mean,
oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Well, what really impressed me about it was that Jamaicans didn't hold their tongue. They said what was on their mind, you know, and they recorded what was on their mind. Where here people are always PCing everything, you know.
right? PCing,
And
you're saying. Get closer to
yeah,
the mic again. You got away from the
yeah, they're
mics.
PC. Yeah. Sorry. They're PCing it, you know,
What
and
watering it down, sort of. You're saying,
yeah, making it politically correct,
correct?
you know, yeah, and so yeah, I really like that about them, I really like that about them, and they spoke straight, they spoke forward, and they played straight, they played forward.
Did you
They had
have
a great group.
Did you ever have Bob? I see the connection to Family Man and him on the record, and you cover in the Slave Driver. Did you ever play Bob's or work with Bob himself on anything?
I mean, both of them were in the studio at the same time. I mean, all three actually. Gil Cole, the great footballer, came with him, and Bob, and I had Bob, Skill Cole, and Family Man, and Augustus Clevier to my house that on the continent in Berkeley, actually in Kensington,
Wow.
and yeah, I mean they came into the studio. The idea was to work with them, but eventually, things went different with Bob, and we never got a chance to do it. He got sick, and you know, that was the idea. Was because my brother had gone down and spent some time. The 3 o'clock roadblock song. My brother was in the car with him when that happened. You know, and
That's some
when Bob
great.
says,
Yeah, the lyrics.
yeah.
He had to throw his spleef out.
His little herb stomped up. That little herb stalk, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. My brother was in the car with him when they got stopped on that run because he had gone down there to talk to them about us working together. That was his first time down in Jamaica. But yeah, man. I mean, it's like it was for me. It was like, hey, here comes the king. I was really in the position of what the griots did, and the griots are the ones that go from village to village. And if somebody is coming to your village, then someone comes ahead of the time to tell you, to let you know what it is, what this person does, and how you're supposed to acknowledge them. And that's all I was really doing with Bob Marley. But it's like I was in the various roots, I mean, you look at the names of the albums, Recycling the Blues and other related stuff. Who's So Good in Blues, Happy Just to Be Like I Am, you know, The Real Thing, Natural Blues, Giant Step, and the old folks, all those, sounder, and all those different things were leading to, to try to give you a thought process to get into it. And so here was, that was dealing with my American roots for the most part. All those were stuff that was happening, with Africa to America. Now, these were more roots. There's the roots going to Africa, roots going to the Caribbean, roots going to Latin music, and bringing those in and saying, hey, I'm opening up this window here. Here's some more stuff that contributes to what I am, to who I am, and to who we are. So
I love that
making
word.
it.
I love that word contribute, Taj, because it's funny how you have contributed in another way that we never even mentioned, but like a bit of recent respect I see that you just got for some of your classic work came earlier this year. Your very first album was added to the Grammy Hall of Fame. And if people take a close look at that record, that's the record that had Statesboro Blues on it, and it was
Exactly.
your cover of that inspired the Allman Brothers Band to cover it, and then it's like you use that word contribution. You contributed what became a huge signature part of their repertoire.
I mean, yeah, I was really amazed by it once Greg talked about it, how the whole thing came down. I mean, for me, I got intersected by that song. I was interested in learning how to play 12-string guitar, and the people that I heard that were playing it at the time was I heard about Leadbelly and playing the 12-string guitar, but I had never really heard any of his music up close until I realized that "Good Night, Irene" or "Irene Good Night" was his song, and that it was transferred from Leadbelly to the Weavers by Pete Seeger,
Mm.
and then from there into the whole folk music canon. Okay, so Pete played 12-string, and I went to hear him play when I was in college in 61 or 62. I got to see him play, but by then, 12-string guitars were around, and I didn't really know about the origin of them. They really came through Mexico. That's really the Mexicans are the ones that come up with 12-string guitars. And how did you get to, how did Lead Belly leave home leading Blind Lemon Jefferson with a six-string guitar, Blind Lemon Jefferson with a six-string guitar. Then when they went across to Texas where Blind Lemon Jefferson was, they went across the border to Nogales, and they were over in Mexico. And when he came back to Louisiana, he was playing 12-string guitar. So he
Amazing.
must have heard it in Mexico and
Right.
brought it back. So,
Right.
so I mean, that's that part of the history. On my side of it, then this is stuff I learned. I sure like the sound of this instrument, and then I discovered an album that was a compilation by what's that band's name? What am I saying? Charles. Um, I'll think of it. Sam Charters. He put together an album called no, not really, the Country Blues, and it had Gus Cannon, Blind Blake, Blind Willie McTell. It had two songs by the Memphis Chug Band. It had Lottie Kimber on there. It had a bunch of different people, but it had Blind Willie McTell's Statesboro Blues,
Wow.
and just the way this guy played, where Lead Belly was kind of like a thumb pick and a rhythmic player. He played more strummer, real cool. He would play single notes now and then, but not always. His voice was the one that did the running. The guitar didn't do the run. Where McTell had a combination of lines that he played on the guitar and then lines that he sang.
Right.
And so I was spending time learning how to play that song. And then when when I came to California and Ry Cooder and I got together, he knew the song, and we had come up with a version of it actually on the first album that we did, which eventually got released. And then when I went to play my own, start out on that album that we just were talking about, it was inducted to the Grammy Music Hall of Fame. That after the first Taj Mahal album, I brought Rye over with me to that to be one of the musicians who was going to play on that album, and he did. And then what happened was that was when I met Jesse Davis, and he was playing slide, and I showed him the song, and then he thought about it for a while, and he's the one that came up with that particular arrangement with the slide like that, and then because it was that kind of arrangement, it changed the way I sang the song. I sang it more the way it is now.
Right, it changed it more. It made it even more your own sound, is what you're saying.
Right. It made it kind of like a blues rock, And then we go to the leap to the Almonds. The Almonds are real particular about the music that they liked. They didn't like an awful lot of people, but they really liked us. They liked us a lot. And so what happened was that it was Dwayne's birthday, and Greg convinced him that they needed to go rent some horses and go horseback riding. So they rent the horses, and the guy tells them, "Look, be real careful. These guys, if you take them up on the blacktop road, they're going to be real skittish. So be careful." So anyway, they get on the horses. Greg convinces them to go up on the blacktop road. The horse gets skittish. It throws Dwayne.
Oh.
He breaks his arm. It's his birthday. He's in the house, and he's got some kind of a flu bug or whatever it is on top of it, and he is mad at Greg. Dwayne is, hey, he give it stink eye. You know what I mean?
Stink eye.
he give him big eye, the kind of stink eye. And, he's like not happy. So what happens is that Greg is kind of thinking, what can I do to, break the ice with my brother? Because Dwayne was the elder and Greg was the younger, and so he decides that he's going to give a gift of Herb and this record that he was listening to with Statesboro Blues, and I guess I don't know. So he puts the thing, knocks on the door, and he runs away. So Dwayne comes to the door, arm all in a cast, and he sees this record and the Herb there, and he takes it in, and Greg says about 2 hours later, maybe he gets a phone and he says, "Baby brother, you better get yourself over here right now." And he comes over to the house, and he comes in, and Dwayne is playing, got the record on the record player, and he's playing along with the record. And from there, it became a part of their
repertoire.
And then most people know Statesboro Blues from the Allman Brothers. They don't really know it. And furthermore, they also, which I didn't know until later, they always thought it was Ry Cooder playing slide on that. No, it's not. The correction is, it is Jesse Davis. And he's the first one that I saw outside of Muddy Waters play slide in standard tuning. And that's what the sound is there.
I mean,
now there are other people that do it. But at that time, Jesse was the first one that I ever saw play slide in standard tuning.
And that's
Muddy Waters.
And that's the dude that basically, that is one of the greatest stories of the evolution of that inspired Dwayne to do God knows how much other stuff too, huh? Can you just imagine?
Amazing. Man, are you kidding me? The guy was unbelievable. I think that the only other person you could probably talk about in terms of slide like that would be Lowell George.
Right.
That might be somebody else, and different too. Not the same, but with
Right.
Lowell George, and he'd be over there. Because I remember the first time I heard him, it was like it's one of those sounds that you go like, that guy can really play. You know what I mean?
This is
It's just,
pre Little Feet.
uh, yeah, pretty little feet. Yeah, yeah, and then eventually with them, I know those guys too.
No, I mean you were like an octopus. I mean you had so many, but I mean that story of I mean you reframe like you said. A lot of people, you said it yourself. A lot of people think that's an Almonds tune, and first of all, it's not. And then a lot of
But
people,
no, they have no. I mean, the way they ended up doing it, that they did the right thing is that they adapted what they heard to their sound.
right? They made it their
That's
own.
what you're supposed to do, right? That's what you're supposed to do. And a lot of people don't do that. They want credit for being able to copy it, and just like it is, and they don't want to move with this whole bunch of those people.
Right.
I mean, there's tradition that there's a certain thing that you got to do. But I mean, hey, it's just like, hey, you got different sounds, I mean, and just like all the different steel players, they're like any other musician. You can recognize them. They have a signature. They have a voice, and it's different from the next guy playing the same song.
No,
In
I
the
get it.
same tuning.
No, I get it. I mean,
You
and
know,
they made it their, they did a beautiful job and
yeah,
reinvented it. But it's great to hear it was really the arrangement that you had. And who was the guy you gave
right,
you
right,
said the
yeah,
guy's name who arranged yours? Who was the name of that guy who arranged?
yeah. Jesse Davis.
He played the guitar. He played the slide and did the arranging.
Yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. So there
Yeah,
you
yeah,
go. Critical guy to
yeah.
influence Dwayne.
Oh yeah. Well, he was the guitar player with me for the first three records. Those three records that everybody really says are the seminal records that everybody came in the door. Those opened the door. He was on those three records with me, and then one other record after that in '86. But those first three records, it was just he did all the lead guitar work. Some of the Rye did rhythm and mandolin on that album, and yeah, I mean it was pretty much a jam session where I called some musicians that I knew because I had a session. I had a recording session, and I didn't have a band, but I knew who could play, and I knew who could play together. So I put a bunch of guys together and told them what I wanted, and they gave me exactly what I wanted. You know,
Did he do the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus with you?
yeah, he's the guitar player on the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus. He was a Comanche Indian from Oklahoma, and those other two guys were all from Oklahoma too. They all grew up together playing music. You know.
And that's so cool that that classic film got restored last year, and that's another way that it just shows again the depth of all the different ways that you connect people and their memories, and it's just a beautiful thing. When you come back, you're really bringing a lot with you. I guess that's what I'm driving. My point is.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, when you're in town, we could spend a little bit of time. Maybe if it's okay with you. If you're busy, I understand. But I'd love to drop by the Blue Note and just talk a little bit more with you if you have a moment when you're here.
Sure. All right. Sounds good to me.
Did you have fun today? Was this okay?
Oh yeah, this is wonderful. Yeah. You kidding me? No. When people really know what they're talking about, I don't have no problem. It's no problem. I'm prepared for it, and I'm relaxed, and it's like everything's in total recall, and I feel real glad that people are still interested in how it all came together.
Oh, it's gigantic to me, brother. And I spent 12 years in Boston, so your strong connection to Springfield, Mass, also is something
Yeah.
I feel a strong
Oh yeah.
connection to.
Okay.
So we
All
got
right.
and the Hawaii thing. So I give you a big hug and a high five. I can't wait to see you at the shows, and it's just going to be great for people to and hopefully you tell some stories too during the course of a show as well, right? To
Oh
share.
yeah. Hell yeah. It's from the musical style and tradition that I come from, the audience is part of the performance, and that's always the way it is. That's what the Hawaiian music is like. That
Connie
audience is
Kapila.
part of the performance.
Connie
Yeah,
Kapila
Kani
style.
Kapila. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's it. And so yeah, I'm always gonna see them as that and feel them as that. And if they hesitate, I'll say, hey, you're part of the performance. So don't hold back.
I love it. Man, I can't wait to see you. Travel safe and giving you
All
big,
right.
big hugs and high fives. And I'm so grateful that you took the time to share all these great stories with me today. We really were reminiscing on some powerful things. I learned so much today talking with you. And I hope
Well,
hope you know, I'm very, very grateful for your time, my brother.
no problem. No problem. Hey. So hey, I'll see you guys down the line, eh?
I'll see you in Honolulu
Okay.
at the Blue Note, brother.
Okay.
T-
Aloha.
Aloha, Taj. Take care. Be safe.
Okay, you same to you.
Bye bye.